Define phase. What was define phase all about? Yes. Yes, please, somebody. What are the things we did in define phase?
Identifying project CTQs, then developing a project charter and defining process map.
Yeah, identify project, problem statement, etc., mission statement, then team. Then we identify what are the, what is that we are improving with the help of CTQ, isn't it? Then
Yeah.
in measure phase, now this is why in the measure phase, we understand the process, isn't it? Then we have properly defined the CTQs and CTPs also. So whatever we have defined here, we have made it very thorough here, CTQs, CTPs, and then we have taken the data collection plan, made the data collection plan, isn't it? Data collection, and then we have also done MSA and capability analysis. So capability analysis means what is your current state of CTQs and CTPs. Then in analyze phase, for example, we have 7 to 8 CTQs, CTPs. In the analyze phase, we have done that funneling approach. Out of this, we have analyzed what are the real root causes, two or three problems, 2 or 3 root causes, isn't it? Now, once you know what is the root cause of your problem, now what is next step? You need to select a solution to counteract that. Okay. So when you have when you have identified what is the root cause, then you will find out what are the solution that we should implement or solution we should identify to counteract the root causes, isn't it? So this phase, improve and control phase, is all about that. Okay, so just let me show you the project again once again. So we have done 2 projects. I have shown you 2 projects, real case studies. This was about a reducing rework in an hydraulic component, and they have, what was the problem they have? They have around 9% of reworks, isn't it? Yes, average 9% of rework, and that was costing around 67.5 lakhs per annum. And then they have identified the reasons for the reworks. So they identify the CPOC, what are the process. Now this is high level process. And what are the inputs going to that process? Who are the suppliers of that process? And what is the output of the process? And then who are the customer? Now CPOC will give you a scope. Who are all the to whom you have to kind of communicate. The stakeholders you will identify. So CPOC is helpful for that. And then we will come to the measure phase. In the measure phase, we will see properly define the CTQs and CTPs. Now this is CTQ, the rework. Now the rework is represented by Y, CTQ is represented by Y. Now what are the reasons for this rework? Internal leak can be one reason. The rework can occur because of internal leak. Rework can occur because of piston travel. Rework can occur because of external leak and auto function, etc. Similarly, I have shown you that day a hospital management project where there was the problem was the blood contamination. The people they collect the blood and that blood was getting contaminated. So they wanted to find the root cause for that. So they have identified around 6 to 8 CTPs for that also, isn't it? So In the measure phase, you have to identify what are the CTQs and CTPs. Now, this is CTQ. Now, these CTQs, they are defined properly. What are those CTQs? Like this. So, in the measure phase, in define phase, we are not properly defining the CTQs. Okay, that we are going to do in the measure phase. We'll properly do it. Why? Because we need to collect data for this. That is why we are properly describing it so that people can go and take the data. Because when you do Six Sigma implementation in an organization, it's not an individual. Sometimes when you do project sorry, as an individual, it's up to you. You plan the data collection, you take the data, you meet with people, etc. But when in an organization, when things are implemented, it's not easy. There are a lot of people. Then you have to allocate the resource. You have to get permission from the top management. There should be a structure. There should be somebody who is facilitating. In QC, it is called facilitator. Maybe in Six Sigma, we call it project champion, etc. So you have to get involved with these people, and then you have to get data collected by some other people. So they should know what is that data they have to collect. So they can very well describe the data and give the specification, etc. And then in the measure phase, they go for a detailed process flow map. See, in the detailed process, in CPOC is high level. In the CPOC, there is only high level process. There is no detail. Now, in the measure phase, we are seeing the detailed process flow map. Like starting the process, and then what is the first process? Receipt, dismantle, initial cleaning, send parts to lab, send parts for coating, micrometry, and then you will see whether parts okay. If not okay, replace. Otherwise, again micrometry. Now, this is one point where you can see that rework data can be collected. So this is a place where you find that rework data, you can get rework data. Then again, wherever the decision symbol is there, you get the rework data there. And then collect parts, final cleaning, etc. And testing on rig. Now here also we get the data. How many boosters passed, failed, etc. Now here also. So that is why we are going for a detailed process map. Now there is another use of detailed process map. When you are sitting with a team, there may be 2-3 people working in your team. Usually, they used to be around 5 or 6 people in a team. Now, everyone will understand. Maybe all people will not be, knowing the detailed process. Maybe 1 or 2 people may be outside the process. It's a cross-functional team. So you can explain them through this process mapping. And then detailed study of process mapping, and here you can do a lot of FMEA, how many ways it can go failure, etc. And then do a risk priority number, etc. So detailed process map is the very, very important step in measure phase. And then like FMEA, after detailed process mapping, you can do an FMEA. And then we identify the CTPs. Now CTPs is based on process knowledge. You can, what is the process. Now, the people know that these could be the reasons for rework, not meeting the specification, the reasons for variation. Now, bell crank and bolt is one reason, electric and hydraulic subunit is one reason. These are all probable reasons. Probable reasons. Only after collecting data and analysis that we will come to know that which is the real root cause. So these are probable root cause, probable reasons. And then data collection plan, very, very important. How to collect data properly, who is going to collect, from where you are going to collect, how is it being collected, what is the size, what type of data, is it variable or attribute, etc. And then segmentation criteria, etc. can be put in a data collection plan. So if you have a proper data collection plan, you should have a proper data collection plan whenever you are doing Six Sigma, because data collection is very, very important. If you are not getting the reliable data, proper data, then there is no use. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. And then we also learned MSA, how to do an MSA. Why we are doing MSA? Wherever measurement is involved, you should do MSA. Now, this is one MSA they have conducted for a gauge R&R for external micrometer. Now, MSA is conducted for one gauge With the 3 operators, 10 parts. And what are the criteria? Tell me, is this MSA validated? Can we rely on this MSA? Yes. What are the 2 things for validating MSA?
Reproducibility and
yes, gauge or under. No? Percentage gauge or under, how much it should be?
Less than 10%.
Yes, just less than 10%. It was old data. 10 to 28 we can have for if if cost of equipment is more, etc. But 10 is the normal one. Internationally accepted AIAG, Automobile Action Group, Industries Action Group, etc. They are defining this standard. So as per them, the 10 less than 10. Okay, gauge R&R should be less than 10. And what is the second criteria? NDC should be more than 5. If both criteria are met, then we can say we can rely on the measurements taken from this measurement system. And then we go for capability analysis. In the capability analysis, we find what is CP and CPK. Now, what does it mean, CPK and CP? If CP and CPK is not same, what does it mean? If CP is equal to CPK, what does it indicate? Process
perfectly centered.
Centered. Process is centered. Now, if you see, this is the center of the process, and it is not on the center. So CP and CPK is different, isn't it? See this, and then probability test, then another capability analysis. Then the DPMO, finding the DPMO, all these things we have covered. And then finding out from quick solutions, QKITs. This is also quick solution. These are all very quick solutions that you can immediately implement before analysis. We call it as low-hanging fruits. Okay, very quick solution we can implement. And then QKITs, these are the things. Then we'll find out what are the real root cause. Now, cause and effect diagram, then control impact. So this is the black belt knowledge. So that's why other tools are there. And then Pareto analysis we have discussed. Then ANOVA. And again capability analysis, etc. And then they see the funneling system. What are the tools used? There were more than 30 reasons, probable causes. And from 30, first they have reduced to 22 using FMEA, then 15 using cause and effect, 12 using control impact, etc. Pareto analysis, ANOVA, capability analysis, DOE, and finally, out of 30, we have come to three reasons. Now, what are the reasons? These reasons, 3 reasons they see. These are the root causes. Variation in clearance of bell crank assembly is one of the root cause. Compression strength of spring is one of the root cause. And moisture ingress in electrical unit is other root cause. So, out of these 30 probable reasons, they have come to what? They have come to some 3 root causes. Now, they have to find out the solution. Okay. Brainstorm solution. What are the reasons? Now, brainstorm the solution. You will see the brainstorming. For the solution, we have to brainstorm the best solution and then come out with the best possible solution. So this is also, these are the roles of improve and control phase. And then solution selection. If you have solution 1 and solution 2, then you will see which solution you will take best solution. Then similarly, if you have 3 solutions, how it is done, solution selection matrix. Now, there is a brainstorm solution. Solution 1, what is this solution 1? Lower the USL to 0.068. And another solution, make mandatory replacement of bell crank assembly during overhaul. So these 2 solutions, counteractions came during the brainstorming. Now we want to evaluate these 2 solutions, which is the best solution. So there are certain tools. Now solution selection matrix is one tool where how you can use it. You have 2 solutions. Now you make some criteria. What is the impact of the CTQ? That means the problem. If you implement this solution, what will be the impact of that? How quick you can implement it? how cost effectiveness is and for future complaint. Now, for each criteria, we will give a weight, like impact on CTQ, we will give maximum weight 9. Quick to implement, we will give a weight of 6. And cost effectiveness, again, we have given a weight of 6. And future complaints, we have given a weight of 9. Now, this is up to you, up to the team. Team has decided, okay, let's give this weightage. Or maybe in your organization or some organization, there may be a standard way of evaluating the solutions. Now, these scores are being given by the team. Now, team give a consolidated score, okay, solution 1. For impact on CTQ, we will give 9. For quick to implementation, we will give 9. And for solution 2, given 9. But quick to implement solution 2 is 3 only. Now, cost effectiveness, solution 1, team has given 6 marks, whereas solution 2 got only 3 marks. Similarly, 9 and now. Now, you will multiply these two and give the weighted score. And then you will calculate the total score. And then whichever is having higher score, you will select that. So, solution 1. So, lowering the USL to 0.068 was the solution 1, and this was selected that. Then similarly, we have given, we can find out this. Then do a cost benefit analysis, etc. Corrective metrics. Now, who is responsible for doing this? Solution C, solution have been selected. Now, root cause, what is the solution? Who is going to do that solution? Make mandatory replacement of things. So, for root cause, this variation and clearance, this is a solution. For root cause, this is the solution. For this root cause, this is the solution. So we have identified the root cause using data, and then in the solution implementation phase, we have find out the solution, and then solution is implemented. Now, once this solution is implemented, then we will have a control plan, and we will see what is the benefit, what is after, like CPQ before was that, and after what is the CPQ, etc. So you can see this after implementing this solution, the CPQ, CP and CPK almost comes similar, and now your CPK is 1.73. Anything 1.33 above is good CPK. So this is capable. Similarly, they will see. Then comes the control chart. Now these two, we are going to learn two things now: selection of solution and control charts. These are the two things we are going to learn in the control phase, and that is all for the Six Sigma then. Okay, so let's understand what is control chart and solution selection. So as you said, improve basic, we have covered all these things. By counteracting that, we reduce the effect of a cause and reduce the cause, thereby reducing the effect, eliminate the cause, thereby eliminating the effect. So improve basic, key elements of improve base are: make the process independent of people, make output independent of to the variation from inputs, redesign the process to remove potential sources of variation. Okay, so there should be a strategy to develop, we should develop a strategy to ensure that it is fixed. Ask yourself how I have fixed the problem so that it will never happen again. Now improve basics. Generate solutions, ideas to counteract root causes. Refine solutions. We have learned how to refine it. Statistically provide evidence to solution works and develop implementation plan. Full-scale implementation, etc. Then brainstorming. These are the tools: brainstorming, POCA, solution selection metrics, piloting, etc. can be the. And now let us understand what is brainstorming. Brainstorming is a group technique to generate large number of creative and useful ideas in short period of time, especially. And it was first used by Alex Osborne in the name of ThinkUp. So it was earlier known as ThinkUp, and it's brainstorming has spread throughout the world since then. Known to the most educated managers, but the problem is they don't know how to use it properly. Okay, poor training and later access to quality training material, or because of that, people are not able to do a good brainstorming. Brainstorming is a very powerful tool. So there are certain rules. Now, no criticism of ideas go for large quantities of ideas, respect each other's ideas, encourage wild and exaggerate ideas, contribution in turn, allow trying to think, etc. We have not covered brainstorming, isn't it? Have I covered brainstorming?
Yes, sir. It was covered in analyze phase.
I have covered in analyze phase. Okay. Now, okay. We have done this one also, no? Right. Okay. So let's skip it. I think I thought it was not covered. Right. Okay. Now, okay.
No, sir. It's not covered.
Okay. Now, okay is a concept called mistake proofing. Okay. Mistake proofing means, have you noticed your bike, key of your bike or car? You can put it in the either way, isn't it? Both ways you can put it, isn't it? Now, imagine that around 15 or 20 years back, that was not the so your bike key or a car key, you cannot put it in both ways. It goes only one way. Now, what happens? If it goes only one way, somebody in someday will be putting it in the reverse and forcefully putting it inside, and then you will damage the key. So, a mistake, if there is a chance of making a mistake, someday someone will make that mistake. That's the concept of okay. So, okay says that eliminate mistakes even by mistake. Now, this is a Japanese concept. So whenever they implement any solution, they always think about okay, mistake proofing. Okay. Now, have you seen that PC? If you have assembled a PC, the components of the PC like motherboard or RAM and USB port, etc., all will go in only one way. It cannot go in other way, isn't it? Because DC, AC things you can, even if you are reversing the polarity, there is no problem. But DC, if you are reversing the polarity, it will give, it will damage the system. So there are two types of okay prevention. The process is designed that it's impossible to make an error, so that there is no need to correct an error later. Then detention, like what happens, sometimes you cannot do prevention always, like car key is a prevention thing. But some places you cannot prevent totally. So that time you can give an alarm. If a machine is going wrong, just make some sensors and some giving visual warnings, warning approach signals, etc., so that the operator can stop the process. So either a totally prevention or a detection also can be done. Okay. Rules like they call do not wait for perfect okay. You do it even if it is 50% chance, do it. Do it and improve later. So okay concept should be brought whenever you are doing any. So see, as I said, the PC, SIM card, your SIM card, chargers, car keys, everything you notice. There is a reason for doing that, because someday someone will make an error. That's why. So prevent mistake even by mistake. Then piloting is also a concept. Piloting means before you are doing something, going for a large scale implementation, just do a pilot basis things. So these are all concept of your improve phase. Then we have design of experiments. Now design of experiment is not covered in yellow belt. Just understand design of experiment is just to deliberately make different levels of the access. Okay. So this is how DOE is done. I'll take just an example of DOE. Suppose you want to improve the mileage of your bike. So if you want to do a design of experiment, DOE for increasing the mileage. Now, what is the why here? Response. Yes. Is it not mileage?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, what are the factors that affect this mileage? These factors, now this Y is called the response in DOE term. DOE is very useful for you in the chemical engineering. So Y is just take Y is as response. Then what are the factors that is affecting this mileage? How can you improve a mileage?
Quality of fuel.
Yes, fuel is one factor. We call it as factor. Okay, fuel is one factor. Then
Engine service.
service is one factor. Have we done this last time? No. DOE we have not covered.
No, sir.
No,
Okay.
sir.
Service is one thing. Okay, one factor. Then what else? Think. It's a brainstorm.
Gearing system.
Eh?
Gearing system.
Gearing system, you mean driving condition or gearing system? See, you have to think that suppose if you want to conduct an experiment, now if gearing system is made by the company, can you make any changes in that gearing system? Is it in your control? No. So just think what is in your control. Driving conditions. See, your driving condition affect the mileage or not?
Yes, sir.
Speed affects the mileage or not?
Yes, sir.
Tire pressure affect the mileage or not? Isn't it? So many things. Isn't it? Okay, now make tire type, company, that also can be tire pressure. Now, suppose you want to do an experiment to find out what is the best level of these things so that you can have a best level to get the maximum mileage. Now, if you want to conduct an experiment, how many levels you can have for this fuel? Suppose let's say 75 octane petrol, 80 octane and 85 octane. Now, suppose if I want to conduct an experiment, I will conduct experiment with fuel like 75, 80, 85 octane. Isn't it? That can be one thing. What about the service? I can say service done, yes or no. I will do with after servicing and then before servicing. I can do an experiment, isn't it? Now, driving condition, person A will drive and person B will drive. Now, speed, I will conduct an experiment with 40 kpm, 45 and 55. And maybe I conducted with the maybe 60. Tire pressure 30, 28, 30, 32. Tire type, company A, company B. Now, if I want to conduct a experiment, say with all these factors, full factorial, how much experiment do you think I should have to do? Now, okay. Now you understood what is factors. Now, what is level? These are the levels. Each factor at which level I am going to conduct the experiment. Now, you know what is the if you say that suppose you have 7 factors, 7, and each factor you are doing in 3 levels. You know how many experiments you need to conduct? It is level to the power of factor. Now, what is 3 to the power of 7? Yes.
– 2187.
Is it 218?
2187.
2187.
Yes.
How
sir.
much? That means 3 into 3 into 3, how much? 6 now. What is that? 9 into 9 into 9. How much? 81 into 9 into 3, isn't it? 81, how much?
Yes, sir. It's 2187.
Yes, please, somebody. I'm very poor in mathematics. Am I correct or not? Is it 81 into 81 or not?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's correct.
9 into 9? No, sorry. 9 into 3, 27. 27.
81
Okay,
into
81 into
27.
27. 81 into 27, isn't it? How much it is? 81 into 27. Yeah, 2187. Okay, that's why I was asking, is it right? Okay. 2187. Okay. 2187 experiments you have to do. Right? So, is it possible for you to conduct a 2187 experiments if you want to conduct? What will be the problem if you want to conduct such an experiment? Suppose you consider you're on bike and you want to find out the best levels of the factors for getting the maximum mileage. So can you imagine 2187 experiment, even if you are doing one experiment per day, how many days it is going to take, isn't it? So what is the way then? Way to reduce this experiment? Now one way is, instead of full factorial, you can conduct an half factorial, isn't it? But half factorial will not give you a good result, isn't it? So half factorial means half of this. What is the other way? What is the other way? Yes, please think. If you want to reduce the experiment, number of experiment, what is the other way? Yes. Please think. Can we reduce these factors and levels? If you have good process knowledge, that's why I always say process knowledge. If you have good process knowledge, can we reduce these factors and levels, which is going to have maximum impact? Now, suppose if you want to have maximum impact, what are the 3 factors that you are going to select from this? Fuel, service condition, driving, speed, and tire. You have to select 3. Please select 3 out of this.
Fuel,
Yes.
service, and speed.
Yes, fuel.
Service.
Then
Service and speed.
fuel, service, and speed. Okay, anybody else? So fuel is one thing. Okay, let's say. What about tire pressure? Isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now suppose let's take, okay, let's consider all these things. Like let's take fuel, service, then tire pressure and speed. So let's take 4. Now each, if you are taking 2 levels, now tell me how many experiments we can do now. 2 to the power of? How much experiments? How many experiments?
16.
Only 16, isn't it? Now with 16 experiments, you can find out the best levels for maximum mileage. Now this is DOE. So what are the common factors of DOE? Response is one thing. Response, what is a response? The Y, the output which you are going to improve. That is called response. Factors are nothing but excess and levels. Now factor, levels, response, these are the terminologies of DOE, design of experiments, and minimum basic terminologies. And then we call treatment. Now what is treatment? We'll understand. Now suppose we have a fuel. Now fuel, Let's take 80 and 85. Servicing, yes, no. Tire pressure, 28 and 30. Speed, 55 and 60. Now, what is the first experiment that we have to do? You will keep fuel as 80 and then servicing as yes, and then tire pressure as 30, and then speed as 55. So this set of treatment, this is called treatment. Now this is my treatment 1. Now I will do an experiment with the treatment 1, and then I will see what is the mileage I received. So suppose I got 50 kpl. Now this is one mileage I got with this set of experiment. Now I will do the second experiment, like I will keep this, change this as 85 and remaining all as same. That is second set of experiment. Now the third set of experiment, what I will do, I will keep it as 80, then I will keep the servicing cell as no, then I will keep all others as same. So similarly, I will have how many treatments? 16 treatments. Isn't it full factorial? So now this is what is called treatment. Now these are the basic terminologies that you have to learn. That's all for DOE part. Solution selection metrics already I have covered in that example. Then corrective action metrics also I have covered. Corrective action metrics is what are the root cause and what is the solution. Same thing I have explained to you in that project, and who is responsible, what is the target date. That is corrective action metrics. Now let's come to the control phase. Now what is control? Let's learn two things that before that. There are two types of approach. One is called traditional approach of quality control. Traditional approach. Long back, quality control, even today, some people use this traditional approach. Now, the traditional approach says that you take action. Suppose you have a product specification 45, 35. 45 mm, 35 mm. Now you will check the product, and suppose any product specification is more than 35, you are going to reject. More than 45, you are going to reject that product. Similarly, any product specification is less than 35, you are going to reject that product. Now anyone is, suppose this is 36, 38 and 40, 38, 39, 40, 42, etc. Whatever is coming here, you will accept, isn't it? You will accept this and you will reject this. Now what is this? This is called traditional goalpost approach. Anything within this, you will accept it. Now what about 34.9? Will you accept or reject?
Accept. Sorry.
This is LSL. Lower specification is 35. Now
Reject.
your point got 34.9. So will you accept or reject?
Reject.
You have to reject, isn't it? Now what about 35.1?
Accept.
Accept, isn't it? Similarly here 45.1. Accept or reject?
Reject.
What about 44.9?
Accept.
Accept, isn't it? So this way. Now what is the difference between 34.9 and 35.1? 34.9 and 35.9? 1. Hardly any difference, isn't it? Similarly here also. Now this is what people used to say, the traditional goalpost approach. Now then came Walter Shewhart. Shewhart said that plus minus 3 sigma is the place where you need control. What is that plus minus 3 sigma? What is this? You have learned this. What do you call this? Is it specification limit or
Control limit.
control limit? Now, Shivard said that plus minus 3 sigma is the place where you need your things need control. If this is your process width, anything, even if it is not crossing specification limit, you need to control this also. This is what now Shivard said. Now let's understand that. Okay, before that, let me tell you one more thing. Okay, I'll come back to this slide later. Yes, SPC. Yeah, as I said, Walter Shivard was the first to say, in traditional quality control, corrective action is taken when product or service does not meet specification limit. This is known as traditional goalpost approach. Control limits carry no meaning for managers. Even some industries are still like this. Then Walter Shivard was the first to say that plus minus 3 is the point where your process need control. Shivard invented the control chart, and then he has identified 2 types of causes, common causes and special causes. Have we discussed this common causes and special causes?
No, sir.
No, okay. Right. I said this example, I think somewhere you said that there was a Chetak scooter. This example, did I tell or not?
No, sir.
Okay, you remember there was a scooter, Chetak scooter. And but if you ask your father or grandfather, they will remember that this scooter has a classic problem. Like if you want to start the scooter, you have to tilt it. Daily morning, you have to tilt and then give a kick, then only the scooter starts. Now, what is that cause? Is it common cause or special cause?
Special cause.
Now, that is a common cause. Now, why common cause? Because nobody felt it as a problem, because there was not a problem at all. People know, yes, they never felt it as a problem. They have never faced a problem in starting. Only thing they have to tilt. If you tilt and then start, it will be started. That's called a common cause. But one day, even after tilting, it's not getting started. What could be the reason? Yes. What could be the reason?
No fuel, sir.
No fear.
The engine spark reason.
Yes, spark plug. Spark plug. Then isn't it? So you can have some reasons for that. Now, what are these causes? These causes are called special causes. Why? Special causes is something which can be rectified by a mechanic. Or suppose if you are in a company, the shop floor people, the people who are doing that, involved in that process, they can rectify the special causes. It can be rectified that when these are called, we also call it as assignable causes. Assignable causes. Now, the shop floor people can rectify it. But what about this one, tilting? Tilting and starting. Can any mechanic could solve that? Nobody could solve that. Only the company has identified the reasons, and then they have, because these are all design fault. Now, anything design fault, process design, product design, these fault cannot be rectified by the shop floor people, shop floor line managers. You need some improvement project for there. So special cause and common cause is like that. So in control chart, we are trying to find out the special causes, not the common cause. Understood? Common cause is something which needs an improvement team. There should be a structured improvement methodology like Six Sigma and Quality Circle. They can only remove these common causes. special causes can be removed, identified and removed. So the purpose of control chart is to find out any special causes is there. What are the special causes? Tool breakage can be a special causes. A machine breakdown can be a special cause. Somebody is absent is a special cause. So you will keep on monitoring your process. There is no special cause there. If there is any special cause, we have to identify it and remove it. Now, as I said, there are two types of what is control chart. Control chart is nothing but, see, if you see this we have learned this kind of things in the measure phase, isn't it? USL, LSL, control limits, etc. If you just turn it right side, then it becomes a control chart. The same thing becomes a control chart. And if you continuously monitor it for a long period of time, then it becomes control chart. Now, suppose what is traditional control chart? Now, suppose you are today morning shift or 8 o'clock, you got a process mean like this. 9 o'clock you got this, 10 o'clock like this, 10:30, 10:45 like this. So you collect a shift-wise data and find out the mean and standard deviation of this. Then you get a chart like this. So traditional post was something like that. Traditional approach was that anytime whenever USL, LSL is crossed, then only corrective actions were taken. But Shivant said it's not only here, you have to take corrective action here also, because it is crossing this plus minus 3 sigma. So this is also crossing, this is also crossing. So you have to take corrective actions even here also. This is what Shivant says. Why? If you are taking corrective action here, then over a period of time, it will prevent these things going out of specification. Even if its products are going out of control limits, there is no problem. Even then, the product may be acceptable. But over a period of time, if you are not, this is an indication. It's like a BP of your company, BP of your process. You are checking BP, etc. for your process. That is what is control chart. Okay. So the traditional approach says this is taking corrective action, but SPC approach says take corrective action whenever product goes out of control limits. So there are so many charts. I'll just show you the charts, how it is used. There are X bar, R charts, etc. And very simple how the selection of charts are. I will tell you the different types of charts. Like, suppose you have a product or a chemical process. You said that what is the process? Acid, maybe acid. So it's an acid manufacturing. Okay. Now, what is the acid specification? I think specific gravity, isn't it? Am I right or not? What is the specification of acid? Yes. Is it specific gravity? No, am I? Please correct me if I am wrong. Hello. Otherwise, you tell me one chemical, any product you have to process. Yes. What happened?
Sir, concentration.
Okay, let's take concentration. That's what I'm doing. Please help me, because concentration, I am not a chemical engineer, or I'm not expert in
Viscosity of the acid.
Okay, let's take viscosity. Okay. I think in the battery, we use this specific gravity, isn't it? SG, somewhere around 11 or 12, it should be. In battery, it used, I think. Okay, let's take concentration. Now, what should be the concentration? Any specification, can you tell? Suppose sulfuric acid. Is it right? H2SO4? Is it sulfuric acid?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, right. What should be the concentration of a sulfuric acid? Or viscosity? Just tell any
Concentration.
80%.
How much?
95 to 90%.
95 to
Yeah. 98.
98. Okay. Now, suppose you are into this, into this manufacturing, and your specification is 95 to 98% concentration of the acid. Okay. Now, if you want to know whether this process is in control. Now, what type of data is this? Is it a measurable data? Can you measure it? How are you going to measure specific concentration? Is there any equipment to measure? Yes. So we can say this is a measurable. No, if you measure it, you will get now. It's like what are the values you are going to get? Suppose 0.95. In one batch you got 0.95. In another batch you got around 0.956. Maybe in some batch you got 0.989. And in one batch you got 0.976. Is it possible or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now this kind of data, measurement data, suppose you want to do control chart for this kind of data, we call it as control chart for variables. Okay. Now there are two types of control chart for variables. Variable for subgroups of individual. Sometimes it is individual data. Now in this, it's like an individual data. Sometimes you get data which can be taken as subgroups. Suppose let's take a what do you say, Coca-Cola factory. Now there are production lines. Now these lines are running continuously. Now suppose let's take a 500 ml bottle. So morning 8:30 we have taken in the shift 8:30 we have collected we have taken 4 bottles, and then we have checked what is the amount of the means what is the content, like 500 ml should be there. Suppose it may be 495.5 and 501.2, and then 4 bottles I have taken, isn't it? Then 498, 499.2, etc. Isn't it? 4 bottles. I have taken this shift in 8:30. Now again 8:45, again I have taken some 4 bottles. So how many samples I got? I got one sample 1 which is having 4 bottles in 8:30. Sample 2, again I have some 4 bottles at 8:45. Sample 3, again I have taken 4 bottles at 9 o'clock. Similarly, if I want to collect 100 such bottles in a day, so I will get 25 subgroups of having into 4 bottles. Now here, what I can do is I can take a mean and average, mean and range. What do you call it as? Mean is X bar and range as highest minus lowest. Now here the data is in subgroup. So 2 types of variables, variable data, variable for individual, variable for subgroup data. Okay, so 2 type of variable charts. Now let's consider some other chart. There are other charts for attributes also. Now what is this attribute chart? Attribute chart means wherever we have count data. See, this we have learned, measurable data and count data. Count data, suppose for example, you are in for example in your same acid manufacturing, you are not going to see the specification. You just see whether it is rejected. Suppose you have taken a batch of 100 bottles. acid bottles, for example, suppose. Now you have count that how many met specification are not, then you found that 10 bottles rejected. Count, this is a count. You are not measuring it. You are just measuring how many bottles rejected. And then this is called defectives. And suppose let's take another example, cloth manufacturing. They have inspected some around 500 products. Out of this, 25 products failed. Now in this 25 product, now this is defective units defective. In this 25 units, suppose there are around 55 defects. Now you can have two types of chart. One is for units, one is for defects. Now here also there are two things. One is for constant sample and uniform sample. Here also constant sample, uniform sample. So P, NP, C and U chart. So how many chart we have learned? Control chart for variables, control chart for attributes, etc. Okay. So now let's take some example directly. Suppose just a minute. Okay, now what is this data? What is this?
Variable.
Please read it. What is it written?
Diameter.
This is diameter of some product. Okay. Now what kind of data is this? Variable or attribute? Is it a output of a measurement or a count?
Measurement.
So which data, if you want to do a control chart here, which data type you will use? Which control chart you will use? Is it for control chart for variable or control chart for attribute?
Variable.
Control chart for variable. Now tell me, is it an individual value or a subgroup value? There is nothing called group, isn't it? You cannot see any group, isn't it? It is an individual value, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Now, suppose if you want to do a control chart for this, you will go to Stat, Control Chart, C. There are two types of charts. Variable charts for subgroup, variable charts for individual. Which chart I will use?
Individual.
Variable chart for individual.
Individual. Now, in this, the most common one is IMR. What does it mean, IMR? Individual moving range. Okay. Now, let me tell you, what is the first value? 10.06. So 10.06, minute I will plot one value 10.06, individual value they will plot. Now what is this moving range? Now what is the difference between 10.06 and 10.01? .05? So that is the moving range. So moving range means it is just subtracting your nearest value. Okay. So individual moving range chart. That means two charts will be there. One is a chart for individual and then a chart for moving range. Two charts you are going to get. So whenever you are going to do the control chart for variable, you are going to get two charts. Okay, now let's do it. Control chart for individual, IMR. Now just put that value and just click OK. So minute I will give you a control chart. Now have you seen this? What is the first value?
10.6.
So just see what is this first value, 10.06, isn't it? Now all this value are individual values given in that. You have seen that now, that chart. See this data. So how many data? You have 50 data. So you see this individual 50 data are there. This is observation 50. See, observation 50, individual value 10.06. Now what is this X bar?
Mean, sir.
Yes, mean of that data. Okay. So control chart, mean of the data is found, and then upper and lower control limit by using that formula. There is different formula also. It's not always plus minus 3 sigma. There is some certain other formulas used by control chart. Constants are there, especially it is used in X bar R and X bar S. So this is one thing. Now, how do you analyze this control chart? The first thing is you have to see, is there any point crossing upper or lower the control chart? Yes, tell me, is there any point crossing upper and lower of this control chart here?
No,
in this
sir.
chart? In this chart?
No, sir.
Nothing, isn't it? Now, what is this variation then? There is a variation, isn't it? Now, what is the cause of this variation? Is it common cause or special cause?
Common, sir.
Common. Whenever these points are within the control limit, the causes are because of common. This is called natural variability. It's a natural cause of variation. There is no special cause. Now, in this chart, there is no special cause. But that is not enough. You have to analyze both the charts. Now, tell me, in the second chart, is there any line going out of control?
Yes, sir.
Which is that observation? Observation 33, moving ranges 0.33. That means it is crossing the upper control limit. So, any of this chart is crossing upper or lower control limit, that time it is called, this process is not in control. Now, this is not a common cause. This is something special. Understood? Now, what is that special? You don't know. You have to identify that. So, control chart will not tell what is the cause. Control chart will tell there is something, some special cause happened. Now, you have to identify that. What was that? You have to go back. When was this data taken? This chart was taken. When was it taken? Now identify what is the reason for that. Is it a tool breakage? Is it a employee absenteeism? Just check it. Understood? Now this is what control chart is used and done. Okay. Now this is one control chart. Now let's see the other control chart of. Do you have any doubt here? Tell me. Any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay. Is it covered control chart? Somebody else? No.
No, sir, it's not covered.
Eh? First time. Okay, it's first time.
Yes.
Right. Now let's see X bar R chart. Now see, there are two types of data. One is TTR and then so. Tell me, is this measured data or count data?
So can you repeat again?
Is it a count data observed as a count or data observed as a measurement?
Measurement.
It's measurement. Okay. Now, is it an individual value or is it a subgroup kind of?
Subgroup.
Why? Let's take this TTR and days. Why? Because we have taken data in a group like day 1. Okay. Now here you can use control chart for variable for subgroups, not individual. Okay. Now how it is done? Let's take that. Now what is this? What are the, can somebody note it? 2.37. Please someone. 2.37. Anybody is doing? Please help me. Hello. Some volunteer. Who will do? Just take an average and range of this. 2.37, 2.43, 4.12, 4.66. Please tell me what is the mean of this, average of this. 2.37, 2.43, 4.12, 4.66.
3.395.
395.
Okay. Now, what is the range?
$2.29.
Okay. So you got mean and range, isn't it? X bar and R. Now, how many such X bar and R you'll get?
50.
So you get 50 X bar and R. Then can you plot it? That's all X bar R chart. Now go to stat, quality tools, control chart. Which one I should select? Is it subgroup or individual?
Subgroup.
So we'll select subgroup X bar R. What does it mean, X bar R? X bar means mean and range, isn't it?
Yes,
Then
sir.
we will
Yes,
see
sir.
TTR and the sample size as days, and then we'll put it. Okay. Now you got a chart here. Now what was the first one? 3.397, isn't it? So now what is this chart? Sample mean. A chart for mean and a chart for range. Now what was the range? 2.29, isn't it? Similarly, you got 50 range and 50 mean. Now you have to analyze both the chart. Tell me, is this process in stable or not? Control or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, it is in control, isn't it? Why? Why is it in control?
No data point is beyond the control.
Yes, no data point beyond control limit. Then what does it mean? What is the reason for this variation? Whatever deviation you are seeing, what is the reason? Natural variation, common cause.
Yes.
Isn't it? There is no special cause to this. So this process is stable, in control. Now tell me why this is written as X double bar.
Because it's chart of mean, so mean of mean.
Mean of the means, isn't it? So that is what you have to see. What is this X double bar, mean of the mean? So have you learned something called the central limit theorem? So in the central limit theorem, I said that this theorem is going to be used in where? It's going to be used in control chart, hypothesis testing, etc. Isn't it very useful theorem? Now tell me second one, range chart. Is this in control?
Yes, sir.
So since both charts are in control, we say that this process is in control. There is no special cause to this. Okay. Now let's take another example of the same control charts for the subgroups. Let's take this time this one, data sample diameter and date sample number. Just a minute. Okay. Now this is X bar R chart for diameter. What do you say about the X bar chart? Is it in control?
Yes, sir.
But what about R chart?
No, sir.
So what do you conclude? Is this process stable?
No, sir.
This process is not stable. Why this process is not stable? What is the reason?
There is a special cause of variation.
Yes, variation and in R chart, isn't it? So we need to identify. Now, what does it mean? See, let me explain you X bar R chart. What is this X bar R chart? Suppose this is our control limit. Now our process is always something like this, isn't it? This is our process, isn't it? Now let's say this is here. Suppose now what is the difference between this chart, this graph and this graph? Is there any difference? Suppose this shape is this width is same. Now what is changing here? Is it a range changing here or average changing here? Suppose this both width are same. So if this is here and this is here, so what is that changing? Is it mean changing or range changing?
Mean.
Mean. Clear, isn't it? Now suppose this is one graph and this is another graph. Now here what is changing?
Both are changing.
Both are changing. Now suppose in this graph what are changing? Suppose this is same in the center. Okay. So here mean is not changing but range is changing. Okay. So when any process, either range can be changed or mean can be changed or sometimes both can be changed. So in this process, what do you conclude? Which is changing? Mean is stable or which is stable here? Mean is stable, isn't it? But here range changed, isn't it? So
Yes.
X bar R means you are actually identifying that changes of mean as well as range. Sometimes you see that mean is same, but sometimes you see that range is same. Range is changing. Sometimes you can see that both are changing. So if both are out of control, what does it mean? Both mean and there is a change in your process mean as well as there is a change in your process variation. Got it or not?
Yes.
Okay. Any doubts so far? Yes.
No doubts.
Okay. So shall we proceed? Okay. Now X bar S now we'll not discuss it. There is no much difference. Only in X bar S we are using standard deviation. Instead of range, standard deviation. That's all. So now let's come to this chart. Now what is this data? Number inspected, number rejected. Is it count data or a data of a measured data? Measurement data or a count data?
Count data.
Count data, isn't it? Now, which chart we will use here? Control chart for variable or control chart for attribute?
Attribute.
Control chart for attribute. Now, what is this? Is this defective units or defects? Yes. Is this defective units or defects?
Defective unit, sir.
Yes, this is defective units. Okay, so we will go for a chart for units. Now tell me, in the left side, the number inspected, is it constant or varying?
Varying, sir.
Okay, so we have two types of chart, P charts and NP charts. P charts are used whenever P and NP both are used for defective units. Okay, now P chart is used whenever sample size is not constant. Okay, now which type chart we will use here then?
P chart.
Peter.
Now go stat, control charts for where I should go? Which one? Is it visible to you? Which chart I should go? Which chart I should go?
Sir, attribute chart.
Yes, in the attribute,
P chart.
P chart. Now in the P chart, number rejected, and we'll give the subgroup size as number inspected. Now then we'll click OK. Now have you seen this? There is in attribute you will have only one chart, not like variable chart. You will not have two types of chart. In attribute you will always have only one chart. So have you noticed this? Why this is zigzag?
Sample size is not.
Yes. So P chart you always see whenever you see this zigzag type of thing, you should always see that it's a P chart. Okay. Now tell me, is this process in control or not?
No, sir.
Why? Process number, sample number 8 is going out of the control limit. That means there is some special cause here. We need to identify that. Okay. This is what is P chart says. Okay, now let's go to.
Can you repeat again the difference between defective unit and defects?
Suppose I have taken that example of a cloth. Same example, let me take a blanket. This blanket can go defective in how many ways? Maybe loose stitch, fade color, dirt mark, size label not attached. Many reasons. When you do the inspection, you can have many reasons. Okay, thread missing thread. So many reasons can be there where this particular blanket can go rejected in the final inspection. Now suppose 500 pieces inspected. Out of 500 blankets inspected, 25 blankets got rejected. Now, what is this 25? Is it defective unit or defects?
Defective units.
Now, this is defective units. Then what is your parts per million? P, proportion rejection. P means proportion. What is a proportion rejection? Yes.
25 by 500.
Now this is proportion rejection. Okay. Now this 25 in one blanket, this one blanket can have 2, 3 or 5, maybe all of this defect, isn't it? In one blanket itself. Now what is this? This is defective, isn't it? Now suppose I have inspected 500 blankets, 25 blankets rejected, but out of 25 I got a total defects of 42. Is it possible or not?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Now, what is this called? Defects. Now, what is the DPU? Defects per unit. What is DPU?
42 by 25.
42 by 500, not 25. No. How many inspected? 500 units inspected, isn't it?
Yes,
So
sir.
DPU is 42 by 500. Now, what is this P? Proportion defective P chart, NP chart, P and NP. Now, what is this U? Defects per unit, U chart, and there is another chart called C chart. Now, C and U is for defects, P and NP for units. Now, what is the difference between P and NP? P will be used for different sample size, NP will be used for same sample size.
Yes, sir. Got it.
Even P also can be used for same sample size. But NP cannot be used for different sample size. P can be used for same and different sample size. Similarly, U chart can be used for same or different sample size, but C chart can be used for only constant sample size. So, C and U is for defects and P and NP is for defectives, units. Okay, clear now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now let's see this NP chart. NP chart. Now, what is this? Number rejected again. Is it defectives or defects?
Defective units.
Defective.
Defective units. Yes. Now, what is this sample size? Constant or different?
Constant.
Constant.
What are the
Constant.
chart we can use here?
NP chart.
Now, what is P? Proportion. What is P here? 23 divided by 200. Isn't it? What is 23 divided by 200? Isn't it? So we can use the chart of this NP. Now let's see, you can use both P chart as well as U chart. Okay. Now control charts. Now let's take NP chart, attribute, NP chart. Okay. Now number rejected and subgroup size, and number inspected, and then you will, now you'll get that chart. So what about this? Is this process controlled?
No, sir.
No.
So what do you want to see? You have to find out the reasons. Okay, you have to find out. It will not tell you the reasons. It will only tell there was something happened on that day. Please find out what is that. Is that problem is within your control? Rectify it. That is what control chart will give you. Okay. Now let's see this. Now let's see C chart or U chart. Let's say U chart. Now what is this U? Non-conformities. Isn't it? Non-conformities. It is not rejected. It is non-conformities, defects. How many units inspected? 8 out of 8. You got 8 defects. Defects. It's not defectives. Okay. DPU. Now, what is the DPU here?
1.
1. What is the DPU here? 17 divided by 8. Isn't it? 18 divided by 8 like this. So, let's see that. Control charts. Control chart for attributes. And then now we will use U chart. Now, in the U chart, you will see non-conformities, sample size. And then you click OK. Now you will see this. Now what is this here? First see this. 1. Count per unit 1. Defects per unit 1. And here it is 17 by 18. That means 2.12125. So tell me, is this process in control?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Is it clear now? Where to use U chart, P chart, U chart, etc.?
Yes, sir.
Clear? Okay, so that's all about this improvement and control phases. And yes, now anything you want to discuss? We have completed all the phases of Six Sigma as far as yellow belt is concerned. Okay, and if you want to have more, you can go through my previous recordings. Okay, Clear? And tell me any doubt you have, any discussion you want to ask, anything, any particular concept in all these phases. Please let me know. I'll just take one more thing. As I said, I told you that this part I will tell you later. Now, this is also a very important thing. The complete define the Six Sigma. See what happens. Now, this is, now suppose a company, they are having a rejection of average 20% rejection. Now, this 20% rejection, sometimes it can be 18 or sometimes it can be 22, for example. Now, whenever it is a 19, 21, etc., nobody bothered. But someday, if it crosses 25 or 28, then all of a sudden there is a firefighting. People will come to what happened, then they will find out the reason, and then they will again come back to this. And then in this, nobody bothered when it is 18 to 23. Now, this is here is where the Six Sigma professional find an opportunity. Until unless a continuous improvement team finds an opportunity, yes, nobody is bothered. Now, somebody find that this rejection is very high. We need to do something. Then they formed a team, and then this is given to a team, Six Sigma project. Now, this team has identified the reason, all the steps defined, measure, analyze, improve, control phases, and then they came out with some solutions, remedial actions, and then from this 20% average data, they have come to some 5%. Now, this was the old control limits. Now, this is a new control limit. Now, the same thing will happen here also. Similarly, 5% means it could be around 4 to 6%. Now, anything between 4 to 6%, nobody bothers. But sometimes, someday, if it crosses 10%, then again, same firefighting here also. Understood? That's the difference between control chart and quality chart improvement and quality control. Now, this is quality control. Now, this is quality improvement. So, all two things should be there. Improvement and control. If you do improve and do not control, it will go back. If you are not controlling here, the control phase is for this. If you are not controlling here, it will very soon go back to this place. So, control phase is for this. Whatever improvement you have done. What is the improvement here? It was 20%. And then from 20%, it has come to 5%. Now, this is a duty of whose duty? Quality improve team, QA team. Now, whose duty to is maintained? This duty is to maintain the process. People have to maintain this. Quality control people have to maintain this. Understood the difference between quality improvement and quality control?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, that's all. Now, you can ask for the doubts. Anything you are not clear in the previous session, this session, you can ask. If there is no doubt, we can stop also.